Hello, welcome to another episode of Behind the Lava. I am your host, Johnny. I am joined by my co-hosts, Michael Tan and Milford Chiafalo. Before we dive into this episode, I got a little special treat for you guys. I'd like to introduce Miss Nicole Rice. She's going to be our guest for this evening. Nicole Rice is a nurse out of Washington State, about 5 years of experience. She has a bachelor's and master's degree in nursing, focus on oncology and telemetry. And then she's also working on her doctoral at this point, also in nursing. So we got a pretty good nurse going on here. You know what I mean? Very, very firm belief in nursing all the way through. So, Miss Rice, so can you tell us a little bit about yourself, a little bit of background, personal hobbies, and then move into your career?
Yeah, definitely. Hi, hello. Thank you for having me. This is Behind the Lava. Did I do that right?
Yeah, there we go.
So I am from the beautiful villages of Bangbango and Utule. I actually know Michael from elementary school. We went to elementary school together, South Pacific International Christian Center out in Fatima Futi. So representing here. Graduate of Samoan High School, Go Sharks, class of 2006. And so a little bit about me, came out to Washington for school. You know, it was one of those where you come to college, you probably don't get it right the first times. Ended up joining the Navy where I met my husband. So we've been back and forth between the coasts. We've been here in Washington to Virginia, and now this is our third time back on the West Coast. So Navy wife, Navy life, and currently really it's just school, work, and church for me. So pretty solid. I got to shout out my parents because I saw in the last episode, Michael had asked about parents. So I got to bring it up. My parents, Noah and Corbell Tusiofo, shout out to them. The reason why I am the woman today. So that's a little bit about me. 2 dogs, no kids yet. And I'm all about trying to do the best I can to help people, right? Like try to make the world a little bit better. So that's a little bit about me personally. Career-wise, so nursing is my second career. And so I started out, my first job actually straight out of nursing school was as a director of nursing. So right out the gate, it's leadership and figuring out how to make our health systems work for the people who need them the most. So since then, when we moved to Virginia, I worked on a telemetry oncology floor. I was one of the leads on the unit, and this was during COVID. So a lot of COVID nursing, seeing a lot of that kind of hitting communities of color, especially. So spent 3 years doing that, and now I'm more on the administrative side, looking at the big picture of how patients move through the hospital. So it's been an interesting nursing journey, definitely not the most traditional, but with finishing up on my degree in May, actually in a few weeks, I'm excited to see where it goes next.
Well, nice. Well, first off, let me lead off with to you and your husband. Thank you for your service. You know, as veterans ourselves, we are proud to, give credit where credit's due. And It's not an easy thing to do, especially as your husband is still currently in, correct?
Yes.
Yeah, so he's continually fighting the good fight, even though he's on the wrong side. Marine Corps, right?
Oh no! Don't say that. Don't. No. We're not fighting here today.
We love all of our squids, airmen, and ground pounders, the Army guys, Army of One.
Oh gosh,
we love you guys all the same. Just Marine Corps is just a different breed. Anyhow, So. Welcome to the podcast. Like we spoke briefly before, me and my co-hosts are going to just kick you with questions that probably don't know anything because we have extenuous background in nursing. We know a lot about absolutely nothing. And so, we're here to pick your brain and, appreciate you coming on the show. Let's talk about the Nurse Initiative.
Okay.
Right. Let's talk about that.
So
what is the Nurse Initiative?
Let me kind of give a little bit of background, right, before delving into this, because I know it can seem a little left field And I like to give credit where credit's due, and I acknowledge I'm not the first to try and gather all of the mainland Samoan nurses. But, going on a tangent here, when you see in like cartoons or movies where there's like the long line of dynamite and the characters trying to like set the spark off, but it doesn't exactly make it go until the last possible minute. That's kind of how this was. And so a few things that affected this was my little sister went into nursing. My mom is a nurse. So family of nurses already. Nice. And there was actually, I had a conversation just around possibly going back home to help the hospital. One of those. And so because I am a military spouse, it would be impossible for me to kind of just uproot and leave when he's still active duty. So that was one of the things, on top of the fact that my granddad actually got care from LBJ and had to get sent here. It was kind of all those things at once that was like, okay, what are we going to do? What can I do to help? And so a little bit about the initiative. I don't want to go too far off track here. My goal is I would like to reach all the Samoan nurses out here in the mainland. And I know it sounds like a big ask, but the collective experience, the collective education, the level of which we're trained out here and the resources we have here is different from what's normally offered back home. I know a lot of us have heard the stories about LBJ, a lot of unfair opinions, I believe. But the fact remains that though the reputation of the hospital may not be the best, the nurses are doing the best they can with the resources that they have. And so the idea is by connecting all of us here in the mainland, we can share the resources we've received with them, whether that be training, whether that be mentorship, educating them on sort of practices that are done out here that may not have yet transitioned to LBJ, but to American Samoa. And so it's a lot of just trying to empower them, I would say, is the biggest thing. It's easy for people to make the assumption that, oh, the nurses back home don't know what they're doing. The nurses back home, this is why this hospital is so bad. But the reality is those are some amazing nurses. They just don't have the resources to operate at the peak that they can. And when I went back home, I went back in August, back to Samoa, and I had conversations with some of the nurses there, and I was just in awe because some of the things that they've had to deal with working in the hospital here in the States, they would be like, no, we're shutting this place down, And so it's giving credit where credit is due, that these are not terrible nurses. They are not nurses who don't know what they're doing. They're nurses who have had to make the best out of what they've been given. And if we empower them, if we support them, if they know that there's somebody with the same cultural background as them who can accomplish all these things, that they can too. So that was kind of what I'm hoping to achieve. And it's not just limited to registered nurses either. I've had the opportunity just in the time that I posted, because I initially posted on Facebook. I had spoken to nurses who are going for their nurse practitioner degree, nurses who are going after their masters, all Samoan nurses. And so it's amazing to see what these nurses can accomplish when they have the right resources. And so that's kind of where it is, because if you invest in your nurses, that's going to help your hospital, because nurses are the ones running everything in the hospital. That's essentially what I'm hoping to achieve by investing in those nurses, by supporting them and empowering them. Ultimately, it's going to improve the care that patients in American Samoa receive. And so, I think that was a good summary. What do y'all?
Well, first off, hats off to you, man. That is, I mean, I'm not going to say it's too ambitious or it's very lofty, but I mean, I'm surprised. Now, before I go further with that statement, now, what were you thinking of it like in terms of like an open forum type, or like a network where people can, maybe like a website type deal where they can all get into one, or, like a phone conference, or are you just aiming to create like a little mini nurse association that can come together and share knowledge, tips and tricks, little things that they've learned from, because I mean, like you said earlier, the nurses in American Samoa are great. I know the rumors flying around, people go in there and then they don't come back out. You go in for a sore knee and you come out in a box. But that was just, they do the best with what they have. Mm-hmm. But I am fully confident that you take any one of them nurses over there and you bring them out here, put them in a program that focuses more on specializing, and they would succeed or not, So, I mean, now with the Nurse Initiative, are you hoping to like an open forum type deal? Because that's totally doable. There's a lot of help sites out there right now that openly share information with like regards to anything, automotive, computer science, communication, anything like that. Where say we're like, something got me, and posted on, anybody know how to fix this? And you're like, oh yeah. If you just, there's always one weirdo out there. Like, if you carry the one, add the two, then we can get somewhere.
You're going to find somebody to answer your question.
Yeah. Especially for those niche, situations that you got to figure out. But I mean, if that's the case, I mean, I applaud you. That's amazing. I'm surprised nobody's thought of this sooner.
Thank you for that. But I will say, shameless plug here. We have our first meeting. As far as the nurses who have at least responded so far, we'll be meeting May 13th. It's a Zoom meeting, 6 p.m. Pacific Standard Time. And so really that would be our brainstorming session of kind of what support looks like. I know what I want it to look like. I would rather it be a combination of you have a mentor of a nurse that's off island, maybe in a specialty. You want to go into a specialty that you're already in, that you want to improve. I also feel like having sessions is also a good one, but I feel at the end of the day, the one thing that's going to probably make the most difference is if we as a collective maybe came down for like a skills fair or for having like workshops, if like 1 week out of a quarter or something. If we can put our heads together, our resources together to make that happen, where at least they'll know, okay, every quarter they're going to have a skills fair where the nurses from off island come down here and provide hands-on training. Because, us as Samoans, we're very relational people. We like face-to-face. We like interaction. And it will be more effective at I'm seeing you, you're seeing me, than let me look online and see what I have. And so we're still definitely in the stages of still brainstorming. I've had conversations. One of the nurses, I'm going to shout her out, Tangi Pa'ama, and she had actually given me the idea of why don't we start with the nursing students at ASCC. The first meeting will be definitely working out how we can make the vision happen, but I'm excited to see where it goes because the help is needed. And so we basically have nowhere to go but up. I like the idea of an open forum. I just don't know how well it would be used or accepted.
Yeah, that might be a little, especially with access to technology down in Samoa. I know everybody's got at least a cell phone,
Mm-hmm.
We're seeing people out there, and I'm glad that more people are starting to take their education seriously in pursuing higher level education or specializing in niche fields. Yeah. I mean, it's really much needed, not just in the nursing, but even like something as simple as law enforcement and firefighting. Mm-hmm. I had an uncle that was retired fire captain out of Raleigh. We went down to Samoa and there was a fire, and he was just watching these guys with a garden hose spray the top. And he was just
and hoping that something happened. Yeah.
And he was like, what are you guys doing? Sprayed at the base of the fire. And then when the fire truck showed up, they had the green guy in the front and the main dude, the old Samoan way, supervising in the back. No, spray right there. no, you're doing it wrong. It's like, come on, get over there. But I mean, and that was like 10 years ago. So, but that was like one of those situations that stick out to you, that stand out. Then you come over here and the expectations that is required of just standard practice everywhere, from food handling to cleanliness to how buildings are supposed to be built, everything like that. So it would be nice. And then obviously there's also the funding. That's the big word on everybody, is funding.
And to your point, it's, at least from what I've seen in my career, the further in nursing you go, and I guess let me kind of back up here just to give you reference. So when it comes to like nursing, usually you start out as a CNA or a certified nursing assistant. So then the next level to that would be an LPN, or a licensed practical nurse. Then you have your RN, your registered nurse, and usually after that, like a nurse practitioner. And so the higher you go, the fewer and fewer people you see that look like you. My hope is that wherever the nurses back home are, whether they're a CNA, whether they're an LPN, whether they're an RN, that seeing somebody who looks like them accomplish the next level will kind of motivate them to want to be able to do it as well. That it's not as impossible as it may seem. It's not unattainable, because the more we kind of elevate ourselves in that way, education wise and career wise, the better we are for it. Because, a lot of the times, and I love our Samoan culture, but we kind of suffer from, oh, that's not my problem. We like everybody's business, but it's not my problem. This is an opportunity where now it's like, okay, it is my problem. How can I help you? Especially now, my little sister, she's a nurse now. She's an LPN. And so I want to provide what I wish somebody gave me, of like an example of, look, you can get a master's, you can get a doctorate. It's not impossible. You're not limited because you graduated from American Samoa. You can hit all these levels. To your point, it's amazing seeing what the difference in educational resources and training can do, especially compared to back home. We all want our people to do better. We all want them to be elevated and be proud of their accomplishments. So no better way than, trying to improve yourself.
Yeah, before we move on, I just want to make a comment real quick. Hats off to you for going into this, industry, the nursing, the healthcare industry, because it's not easy. My wife worked in the emergency department and is a licensed phlebotomist before she became a kindergarten teacher teaching Mandarin last year. But I think she intends to hop back into the healthcare industry. Yeah, and she's told me a lot of stories.
Horror stories.
What happens in the hospital. Yeah. And I told her, why do you want to work in a department in nursing? Well, people treat you like crap in that industry. You would have to have a lot of patience and passion to be in nursing. I'm very excited for where this is going to lead. It should probably it can be a nonprofit, for it to move forward. But the only thing is, starting a nonprofit requires a lot of dedication, and you start recruiting people to become board members and having titles and positions. So that's a lot of logistics. So I hope you guys figure out, that aspect of it, so that you guys can start making an impact on our American Samoa community.
And I will say, in defense of like, oh, why nursing? It's true. Like, we definitely get the short end of the stick. And this is nurses here in the States, nurses back home. But in our training, we're always taught that you're seeing this person on the scariest day of their life. Whatever they're saying, whatever they're doing towards you, it's not personal. That's just how they're showing their fear. That's just how they're showing their frustration. And so, I'm the type I'll talk Jesus to you real quick. You want to cuss me out? I'll be like, well, God bless you. Now take this medicine, And so you kind of have to roll with the punches. But like I said, giving credit where credit's due. Definitely not the first to try and organize a nursing association, especially for Samoan nurses. There's one in California. There's also one here in Washington. And I've actually been fortunate to speak to the nurse who started it out here, Sineva Driggers. Look, credit where credit's due. Definitely just using the blueprint of what's already established and evolving it from there. I'll be honest with you. I'm just trying to get through school, and I'm trying to garner as much support as I can. So if the next step is taking it nonprofit, then I guess that's where we're going. But if I'm just the one that's going to light the spark for somebody else to run with it, then I'm okay being that fuse as well. So, I'm just appreciative of the support, especially from, my poly brothers, my Samoan brothers, because it's easy. They always say in Samoan, "Faleanga Samoa, they Samoa." And so it's easy to kind of have that mindset of it's not my problem. I don't care. But supporting each other and coming together for these types of things is exactly what we should be doing if we want to elevate our people. So thank you. Props to y'all.
And nursing, we're some of the best caretakers of family, when it comes to our parents or anybody. We got so many people in our community that, they put their own interests and whatever aside just to take care of family. Like it's all about family, nobody else. So, why not us? And here we're about that action. Mr. Michael Tan's Mr. Action. That's what we like to say. And we've been fortunate to interview so many people. It's just funny the way things work out that are, ground level and people that are starting to take action to make changes that they want to see instead of just, talking about something and not doing a damn thing to even move things a centimeter. So it's cool that you're doing this. To me, it's not ambitious, too ambitious, man. Ain't nothing to limit for us Samoan people.
Look, and if I could reach just one Samoan nurse in Utah who is like, that sounds interesting, I want to do that, then job well done. I've done what I was supposed to do. I appreciate the support, and like you said, even if it's just moving 1 centimeter, which is amazing because this generation, I shouldn't say this generation, our generation really, you're seeing a lot of Samoans who came off island who are now going back to try and improve things. It's just a testament to when you really want to be the change, you will make the change. I'm proud of our people. We're getting there. One thing at a time.
Here to that. I think that's that little statement on its own. It's amazing because a couple weeks ago we had the pleasure of interviewing a Samoan guy that invented the washi for toilet seat. They changed cultures. This guy created a product and got some of his buddies to loan him money. And then he took his idea and invented this whole different product. And now it caught fire and it's spreading. And he did that. He was on the Shark Tank. And now he's just hoping to sell his idea off, and make boatloads of money. And I was like, why? So you could just sit pretty? And he said, no, I have so many more ideas to do. Yeah. And I'm done with this. It works and it's a good product. So that's cool. It's successful. Now, what else can I do? Yeah. And, the guy did everything. He started off in Hawaii, worked his way up. He was even a public figure at one point in time. He went to school for something else, did something completely different. And you never know which way the road takes you. But we are capable of that level of achievement, And so, this, you'll see a lot of certified. The only problem I see is that for as many of the nurses that come up here, or not even just nursing, but professions in general, they come to the States, they get trained up, they get all nice and smart and stuff, and then they stay.
Yeah.
They build a career here. They make a nice little home. They raise a family and they stay. Very few of them actually go back. And that's from what I see that's kind of like for every one family that goes back, there's quite a few more that stay.
That are staying.
Yeah. So if we could get them to bring that experience and expertise back, and then maybe, if I'm not going to throw anything out, I'm not going to say nothing about the government and anything about mismanaging funds or anything like that. That's just all hearsay.
That's another podcast.
It's not true. None of that's true. Okay. And we will not speak on that post at all. But, I better not get in trouble for that.
And I asked Michael too. I was like, "Is there any topics we can't talk about?"
No.
And you just
there isn't, but the focus is on your initiative.
On the initiative.
Yes,
I miss you, Johnny.
The initiative, I believe, is well within your scope, and I believe that they can be done. And like you said, with the washi guy, maybe you're just a thinker. Every idea needs a thinker. Yeah. Like this podcast. Well, we weren't the thinker either. Michael Tan was the thinker, and he was the doer as well. We're just
but you guys
crew.
Support it. Yeah,
we're the
you
support
crew.
It. we're the ghost investors. But
I mean, you do make a good point, because at the end of the day, the income you're going to make here in the States is not ever going to compare to what you can make back home. And so I definitely acknowledge that it's a sacrifice for those who choose to go back home. It is a sacrifice in resources for them, economically. But to your point, even if it's just, I'm going back once a year, I'm going back, or I'm going to help virtually, or I'm going to connect with somebody down there who I can support. Even if it's to that extent, that's better than just, oh, well, I'm good. We're good. I don't have to worry about that. So that's inspiring. The Washi CEO. You said Washi founder?
Yes, shout out to Rob Bolecki. He's the founder.
That's awesome.
Now, before we move on, I want to acknowledge our sponsor, Ray Keller. So our listeners, have you thought to yourself, I should probably get some life insurance for my family? If you answered yes, then you know perfectly well that you never stopped thinking about it ever since. You've been bit by the life insurance bug, and that desire to protect those you love the most in this world will not rest until you either win the lottery, get life insurance set up, or simply pass away. Whichever comes first, until one of those three things happen, that feeling will never fade. So the question becomes, what should you do? I won't bore you with a drawn out answer, but skip right to the punch. Get life insurance set up right away with an independent broker like Ray Keller, who has access to every option under the sun, so you pay as little as possible for as much as possible. Reach out to Ray Keller at independentislandlifeinsurance.com. Find him on Facebook or by calling 435-200-4869. That's 435-200-4869. Remember, with life insurance, you're either early or you're too late. You're never on time. So that's Independent Island Life Insurance.
All right. Shout out to Ray Keller. He's the man. Love that guy. My favorite human being. So Nicole, you said you were raised in Samoa, graduated from Samoa, also from Pango, right? I'm from Pango as well.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. So now that we have a grasp on this idea, and you guys say you're going to do a Zoom meeting coming up. Do you have a date for that?
May 13th,
May 13th.
2023 at 6:00 p.m.
All right. So if anybody is looking for information on that Zoom meeting, please hit up Nicole Rice. You can contact her on social media, email.
Yes.
Facebook.
Facebook, Instagram. Do you guys have a chat feature? I could put it in the chat, my email. But on Facebook, you have to have my middle name in there.
Okay.
Tofi, T Tango, O Oscar, F Foxtrot, I India. Tofi. Nicole Tofi Rice. And I'll respond. I do my best to respond.
Yes, and her info will be posted on this episode.
That's where I was going to lead off to. My wonderful computer guy, Mr. Michael Tan, will have all that information posted so that you guys can have an idea and maybe touch base. Because, yeah, like we said, we only need that spark. So have you looked into any of the nursing programs that's provided by ASCC? Because I believe ASCC has come a long way since, back when I was still living in Samoa, when a lot of the qualification it was just basic. It was like a basic associates,
Yeah, I agree. ASCC has come a very, very long way, even since, because I think, the summer after high school, everybody takes a class.
Yeah.
So even, when I had last went there, they've definitely upgraded a lot. They've updated a lot, and there's a lot more offerings. As far as the nursing program, I think kind of where, I don't want to say the issue is, but where we could probably do better. The LPN to RN bridge, kind of going from one level to the next. My understanding is their next offering is not till next year. And so what tends to happen is, because this is a problem here in the States as well, when you have so many LPNs and only so many slots of an RN program, especially one that only happens once a year, so that number of LPNs is disproportionate to the RNs you have. Because even if they go through the program, they still have to pass the program, pass the NCLEX, and be licensed to work as an RN. And so because there's limitations on kind of going from one to the other, we're seeing a lot more LPNs than there are RNs. Now, like I said, it's not a problem unique to American Samoa, because here in the States, it's hard to get into an RN program. There's not enough teachers. There's more applicants than programs. But the difference between Samoa and the States is we at least have more options to choose from. If my community college up the street doesn't have room for me, I can apply to the one maybe in the city next to it. In Samoa, it's just ASCC. And if you wanted to do an online program for nursing, there's so much of it that's hands-on. And schools get real particular with who they're trusting to look out for your skills. It's harder to get into the program unless you come off island. That's what I know of the program so far. Like I said, my sister just went through the LPN one. It seems like the LPN one, there it's a lot, I don't want to say it's a lot easier to get in, but it's a lot better to go through LPN. But the problem is going from LPN to RN. I think, was it last year? Prior to COVID, even here in the States, they were starting to phase out LPNs because they want to encourage them to just get their RN. And but with the pandemic, they were like, okay, well, we'll keep some of them to help with staff. And so that same mindset of we need to promote them from LPN to RN, I think should still be the same thing in Samoa. But it's just, how do you make that happen with the resources you have available? Because if we're struggling finding teachers out here in America, you can only imagine what the struggle is back home with finding qualified instructors, clinical instructors, just to get through an RN program. It's like a two-pronged problem. You have the nurses coming in through the nursing school, and then you have the nurses already working in LBJ. How do you elevate both so they both feel supported and empowered to move to the next level? So I hope I answered your question. Look, I know that was long-winded. You can call me long-winded, Johnny. It's okay.
Hey, the more you talk, the less I do. So, and the goal is not for people to hear me talk. We want to hear about you and what your message is. And I truly believe that. I think you need to give credit where, train the old folks first, the ones with the most experience, because I believe the transition between clinically experienced versus certified. That sounds weird. Just so you know, I have zero background in nursing. I have no idea what I'm talking about.
It's okay. So
there's the person that's certified, and then there's a person that's been working in the ER doing hands-on experience for the last 10 years. That's still an LPN. So I believe if you transition them to get a little bit more clerical experience or just more certified experience with the equipment, I don't know. Actually, you know what?
So I guess just explaining that, because I know we mentioned certification. So I'm gonna say this: America's definition, because us back home, we can, yeah, we could find some things.
Hey, man,
So-
if PAs can diagnose like a doctor, then
So, but here in the States, when you graduate from nursing school and you pass your NCLEX, which is like our nursing exam, that's when you're licensed. You can call yourself an RN. You can legally work anywhere as long as your license is accepted there. Now, certifications are like you basically proving that you are a subject expert for a certain specialty. So it's another exam. You have to be a nurse for at least 2 years. You need to have basically extra credit, like extra courses that you take to prove that you're a subject matter expert for this specialty. So for mine, which is like med surg, which is when you go to the hospital and you're on like the regular floor, not necessarily ICU or anything. So I'm basically saying with that certification that anything related to this, I know about it, or I should know about it. And so it's a separate exam. And usually here in the States, depending on the hospital you're in, they will pay you extra to be certified. And it all ties into, there's this idea of magnet, and a lot of hospitals strive to get that designation because that shows their nurses are more educated, their nurses are more active, and their nurses play a more active role in improving the hospital. And certifications and education play a big part in that. And so, if you're kind of tracking where I'm going here, if we can encourage our Samoan nurses to not just improve with education, but get those certifications, because you don't need to be in the States I don't believe you need to be in the States for your experience to count. As long as you have the experience and you have enough hours of education, you can take the test. And if you pass it, you're certified. And that's just another thing you tack on at the end of your name. And so it's not necessarily, there are certifications specific to equipment. But for nurses, it's mainly like you can be a certified emergency room nurse, certified pediatric, certified oncology. So whatever specialty you want to be in, you can be certified for that. And don't shoot me if I'm wrong about this. My understanding is back in LBJ, I don't believe there are many, if there are any, as far as certified nurses. There are RNs, but as far as having like that official certification, I don't believe there are many or any. And it's attainable, it's achievable, but do we have the resources to make that happen?
Well, that was what I phrased it wrong. So what I was getting at is, so what's the roadmap? Say hypothetically, right? You have a nurse who's an LPN that works in a hospital like LBJ that has just basically you work with what you got. Yeah. And so she's got maybe 10 years of delivering babies, right? She's been delivering babies for 10 years. She just doesn't have the paperwork that says she's certified to deliver babies. What's the roadmap for someone like her to go and just maybe fly out to the States for a month to take that certification test? And if she passes, will she get certified right then and there? Or will she still have to put in like the clinic hours that they're required, or some sort of apprenticeship or mentorship? And like I said, I have no idea how it usually goes, but I would assume that, I would never downplay experience, especially the only difference between someone from a lesser developed country versus a more developed country is the experience using the new technology at hand. Yeah.
So for that, this is just a clarifying point here. So here in the States, we have what's called scope of practice for the nurses. So for LPN, legally, according to like each state's board of nursing, there's only so much that they're allowed to do. They can't provide patient education. They can't do like a first assessment. Like if I came up to you as an LPN and you're laying on the floor and you can't breathe, legally, I'm not allowed to make that judgment that, hey, he can't breathe. You would have to get an RN. I know it sounds terrible.
I was saying, a sucking chest wound is a sucking chest wound. You could tell.
Yeah, but just like I said, they like make a huge deal about this here in the States. And so there's certain things legally under scope of practice that LPNs cannot do. So they would have to transition to RN. So if we're talking, even with your experience, right, you would still have to bridge to become an RN. There was a nurse that I worked with who, when she first started at the hospital, she was an LPN for maybe 15 years. And at the time, they were phasing out LPN. So they said, you either get your RN or don't have a job. And so here in the States, at least, they're very firm on you need to have that RN because now you're legally allowed to do more things. Back home, because of, like I mentioned, there's more LPNs than there are RNs. They've been a little more flexible with scope of practice. But if they wanted that official certification, they would have to be an RN first, especially if they're testing here in the States. They would have to be an RN first before getting that certification. Now, any education they might have received towards, delivering a baby, that can count towards those hours. But one of the prerequisites is usually you have to have an RN license. I don't know if there's one specific to an LPN, but I just know a lot of the certifications that I've seen, that's usually the prerequisite is you have to be a registered nurse.
Nice. That's so let's go through the Nurse Initiative. Do you have what are your short-term, midterm, and long-term goals that you hope to achieve?
Short term would be at least establishing like a base network, like establishing kind of who is legitimately interested, I might say, and what specialties do we bring to the table. Midterm would then, like I said, we're kind of entertaining the idea of the nursing school and the hospital, so kind of approaching it from two different areas. So I'd say midterm would be establishing those connections and at least starting the process of drafting what we're trying to do, drafting the proposal, getting it approved, getting eyes on it. And long term, of course, would be making it happen and letting it be a consistent thing where we all can effectively support and get the data behind it, the difference between nurses prior to and nurses after. I think that was probably my shortest answer so far.
So I know we got your social media information and we're going to post it with the episode.
Mm-hmm.
But for this initiative, do you have a Facebook group started for it?
Not at this time. We're going to do the Zoom meeting first, at least to kind of get everybody on the same page, how we want to move forward with that and go from there. And so, like I said, that's on May 13th. So as soon as that's done, we'll get that shared, get that on social media. And you guys will be able to find us.
So I'm going to just plug this in real quick because my wife is watching the live. If I don't mention her comments on the Facebook Live, she'll be like, why didn't you say this and that? So to keep the peace in my household,
please do.
she said a medical mission would also be a great idea. Just get a few CNA, LPN technicians and RNs to travel to American Samoa, do service and connect and learn how to build resumes, applied for medical schools and training. But I think in order for you guys to accomplish that, you would have to be nonprofit and raise money so that you guys can travel, because it'll be difficult.
To an entity.
Yeah, it'll be difficult for you guys to raise money out of your own pockets to do all that, especially with the traveling fees, the tickets with Hawaiian Airlines.
That's another podcast, those ticket prices. But one of the, like I said, one of the women I was fortunate to talk to, she started the nursing organization here. And she was also, she was actually instrumental in sending nurses back home during COVID. And so I've been picking her brain kind of on like her process with that, how that went. So I will not say no to going home, especially if I don't have to pay $1,500 to do so. But I also understand that where we are now is kind of starting the process, recruiting, retaining, getting the buy-in. And once that happens, I feel like sky's the limit. If we want hospitals to sponsor, that would be even better. But one thing at a time, at least. for me right now.
I think it would be remiss to check out some government programs. I'm pretty sure with the amount of programs out there offered by any of the governments, whether it's the federal government or even ASG as an entity, because ASG is well involved with stuff like that. I mean, it'd be nice to see some of those funds get moved into something that would impact. And if it is, then I can be a speaker over there so I can get a ticket down to go see my mom. Hi, Mom.
Look, as long as it shows community impact, right? See,
Yes.
Mom, that's always good. Helps the community.
I know a friend of mine, his mom was a nurse, and for years at LBJ, and she recently, I think she retired, but I heard she moved back here to Utah. But she was, from what I understood, she still goes back every now and then to go see the nurses at LBJ. Shout out Christine Peters. Haven't seen you in forever. But I think it's very admirable. It's something that the crowdsourcing and Michael Tan getting yelled at for not saying his question. Bro, I could see you.
Mrs. Tan, I appreciate the comment, Mrs. Tan. I will hit you up if you're ready to go back. We got to keep the peace.
Right. But I believe as a community, we need to come together and make this happen. Make this a thing. Even if it's just to share a little bit of information, to help out nurses at home. I'm not saying it's your civic duty, but it's nice to get back. Get back, know your roots, know where you're from. I know my goal is I eventually want to go back home. My wife and kids are here. And I know that the military is a strong proponent to get yourself to training. There's medics in the Navy, corpsmen. There's medics in the Army. There's medics in the Air Force. So there's plenty of ways to go to the nursing route and beyond, even firefighters and law enforcement, all those critical areas that are
like
required.
first responders. Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Critical. And I believe in information sharing, maybe not. I got my certification off a forum. So told me that.
Don't get us in trouble. I'm certifying you off www.Samoan Nurse Forum.
Yeah, right. Oh yeah, I went to their course. I'm basically certified.
But I will say, I had seen a comment recently that where I guess she had used to run like the off-island referrals for LBJ, and so essentially saying like it will be impossible to get American Samoa's hospital to a level where it's solely independent of off-island referrals. Basically, getting it to an off-island hospital level. And to a degree, I agree because, we just don't have the funding. I also feel like it doesn't hurt to at least make it better than what it is. It never hurts to invest in your nurses, invest in the programs you have, and see what good comes of it. We have potential. So, to your point, I would say that it's at least try to do a little bit and see how it can change.
I believe that for a project as ambitious as this, getting the right people involved could be huge, to help push this forward. I am not necessarily the right person. I don't even know the right people, but I will scream this as loud as I can because I believe it'll help my home. I am born and raised in American Samoa, well, partly in Utah, but I still call it my home. It's where I want to be buried there. So anything that can help make the home a little bit more manageable, a little bit more safe, more clean, anything of the sort, anything in the positives, I'm all for it. So, kudos to you guys. I hope it succeeds. I hope you guys do really, really well. And I hope you guys go far and hopefully, plug in for me and Milford to go visit and party it up.
To be part of the mission.
Yeah. Part of the mission.
Part of the mission.
we're partying and learning with the other nurses and stuff.
So if I can shameless plug, if there's any Samoan nurses, whether you're LPN, whether you're RN, whether you're nurse practitioner, whatever kind of nurse you are, if you are interested in joining, please reach out to me on Facebook. Nicole Tofi, Tofi Rice. Send me a message. I'll send you Zoom link. Our first meeting is May 13th at 6 p.m. Pacific Standard Time. And I hope we see you there. Plug done.
So it only takes one, and why not it be you? Whether you meet great success in the beginning, have a lot on board, or no matter what happens, I hope you keep climbing, keep climbing, keep climbing, no matter what happens. Because, it'd be great to one day sit there and be like, man, yeah, we spoke with Nicole Tofi Rice, the director of this and that, that help elevate our people and help our people back home, and even the West Side folks, get better health care.
West Side folks.
And yeah, Police Survival, what's up? No, help.
Repping for that 685.
It won't only just be in the healthcare industry, it'll carry over in other aspects of life, and that's what I love seeing. So I hope you keep fighting, because man, like, we can tell this is coming from the heart and not just like, oh yeah, I want clout. Let's do this little thing. Maybe work, maybe won't. It's a genuine article coming from you. So I hope to keep seeing you climbing.
Thank you. I appreciate it. Thank you guys for your support. And you guys heard it here first. When it becomes big, I'm going to say when it becomes big, you heard it on Behind the Lava Lava first.
There we go. There we go.
Exclusive.
Johnny was the host.
Plug. From Bongo Bongo.
Yeah, from
home of the ISO.
Hey. Kagi Medea. Anyways, Miss Nicole Rice, it's been a pleasure having you on. Everybody go check out the Nurse Initiative and also the Zoom meeting on May 13th. I am your host, Johnny Suolevai, and I got Michael Tan and Milford Tiafala. This episode is brought to you by Matai Watches. Check out the Blue and Black series, and the Black and Blue and the Black and Red coming out too. So if you can cop that, they look really clean. I'm Johnny, and this is Behind the Lava Lava. Thank you. Signing off.
Bye.